Today on Dandy Does It, it's time to change the oil on the work van, a 2022 Chrysler Pacifica. I've never changed the oil on a 2022 Chrysler Pacifica, but I understand that it's not too different from my personal van, the 2015 Chrysler Town & Country. Therefore, I'm going to give it a shot, and I'm going to bring you along for the adventure. Let's get dandy. It is my understanding that I will not need to jack this thing up. I should have plenty of room to get under there. So I believe it's going to be right under there. I should be able to reach the plug. But there's a splash guard in the way, but they've so thoughtfully put a little flap that you pull down to get to the plug. So I'm going to get everything ready, and I'm going to try and crawl down there without having to jack this thing up. Not to mention it's raised anyway because it is a wheelchair accessible van. So it's got extra support in there for all the things that a disabled person needs to make their ride safe and comfortable. Okay, so I'm going to show you this because in all the videos I've seen, it hasn't been real obvious. I'm on the ground right here. There is the front of the van. Down the passenger side, there's the passenger side headlight directly under, and you will find the flap. So I'm going to take a screwdriver and just turn that. This flap comes down. I'll be able to put my catch pan under it, and I use a normal size socket size spark plug socket wrench, if this is the same size as my Town & Country, to get the plug. That thing was boogered on there pretty good, but I got it with a 1/2 inch right here. So socket with a 1/2 inch, a lot of muscle, and it's not going to go back on as tight as it did. Anyway, I'm going to pop the drain plug, start draining, and it's going to shoot, because of the angle, it's going to shoot towards the passenger wheel. So I've got to put my my pan down there accordingly. And we are officially draining some oil, and I don't know if you can even get this. There we go. We are officially draining oil. And I've got it cold. I like to do it cold because a lot of people like it to be somewhat warm when they drain the oil. I like it cold because I have experienced a problem with my Town & Country. One time I changed the oil when it was really hot, and my engine shuddered when I started it up, which it had never done before. So I just decided to drain it cold, let it take its sweet time, and then put it all back on. Because you're never going to get all of it anyway, so it's just ridiculous. Just drain it while it's cold. It's fine. It'll just take a little longer. Now our oil filter is right over here, and one thing they have done is they've made it more accessible in this. On the Town & Country, I had to get in a little tight space with my socket here, and I had to get it back at a certain angle and all that good stuff. Now it does look like I'm going to have to use an extension to reach it, so I'll grab my extension right now. We'll get that sucker off. Now this is a telescoping handle, so get that. And hopefully the same person who buggered on the plug didn't do it to this, because this goes straight down to the oil cooler, which is fastened to the engine block down there. We really don't want to screw those seals. And yet somebody did go way too tight on this. But we will go very, very gently on this. Now see, your average oil changing place isn't going to take this kind of care with it. And this kind of care is very, very important, especially with the Pentastar 3.6 engine, because of where they've placed the oil cooler directly on top of the engine. So the filter goes down a neck and goes directly into the oil cooler. And if you overstress this thing, you're going to mess up the seals on top of the oil cooler, and then you've got to dig down all the way to the engine block to get to it, which means you have to take this off, the upper intake, the lower intakes, and while you're in there, you know, do everything else you got to do. Spark plugs, because you're going to be replacing all the gaskets along with it. Now, I think I've got it loose enough to where I can get the rest by hand. Do my best to make a good camera shot here. And this, according to my research, takes the exact same oil filter as my Town and Country. You can kind of, thankfully, the way this is positioned, I can lift it straight up and out, and there we've got it. So just, you know, your typical stuff here. You got your filter here, just pops right out. Nothing's really changed in that regard. I've got a piece of cardboard down here to prevent a mess from my little table. This is just here to weigh down the cardboard. It's kind of bent up, and kind of just clean things up as you go. There is a rubber O-ring in here you've got to replace. When you buy your filter, always check the box to make sure that they've included the replacement O-ring. This filter, it is a this is the Walmart brand. You know, if you're changing your oil regularly, don't buy an expensive filter. It's really not needed. The ST11665. That's a SuperTech. That's the Walmart brand. The numbers are the same as Fram. Of course, Mopar likes to do their own thing. Those should be exactly the same, and they look exactly the same. So before I put that in, we're going to replace the O-ring from around the oil filter housing. The O-ring lives right here. Just get a little screwdriver, pop that thing off, discard it, and you want to come in and take the opportunity to clean everything as good as you can. There we go. Get our brand new O-ring out right here. Before we put that on, we want to put a little oil around it and lubricate the O-ring. Get our fresh bottle of oil. One thing I do like about the new Chrysler Pacifica is that they only take 5 quarts instead of 6. Before, you know, because bottles of oil come in 5 quarts. This one's got less than 50,000 miles on it, so I'm not using the high mileage formula. But if you change your oil often enough, you do not need the crazy super, you know, synthetic, super expensive stuff. It just doesn't matter, because if you're changing it as often as you should, then all you're worried about is the viscosity breaking down or not. You don't want the viscosity to break down. So the only reason you need a longer life oil is if you don't keep on top of it. But I keep on top of my stuff. I change oil every 5,000 miles. And that's easy to remember. It's easy to see on the odometer. And it brings us in right about, in my opinion, where we ought to be. The manufacturers like to tell you can go longer, but they tell you should go longer on everything because they want this stuff to break down. They want you buying a new vehicle. Okay, so this has already been well lubricated inside and out. It's all good to go. So now we're going to pop in our new filter right into there, and it'll just pop into place, and you'll feel it. There it is. Got a little springy action to it. And we'll just start it back in by hand into our engine. And the idea behind pretty much everything in this process, which apparently my predecessor to this oil change did not follow, is to be very, very gentle. Very gentle. Start it in by hand. Kind of give it a little wiggle as it goes. Make sure it's not cross-threading. And now we're about as far as we can go by hand. Come back in with our socket. This is a 24 millimeter, by the way. And this housing, it's all plastic, so you got to keep that in mind. And gentle, gentle, gentle until it can't go anymore. And you just give it some gentle tugs. And you should be fine. The idea, just take it easy. You can hear it kind of starting to tighten up there. Okay, now we're as far as we can go. Make sure. Right there, and just give it a couple gentle tugs. There, got a little more out of it. I'm not cranking down on it. I'm just tugging gently, rocking back and forth. 1, 2, 3, 4. Whoop, got a little more of it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ease up. There we go. There we go. Just snug. You can feel around it. It feels like a good seal. Of course, you know, not much you can do by sense of feel. There's some things you can, but. Well, it's now time to go underneath the vehicle and see how the drain's coming along. And the drainage appears to have stopped. And I think that's because this uses a much lighter weight oil. This uses a 0 weight 20. So it's a lot thinner and it's going to drain a lot faster. Which in our case is a good thing because it gets us moving along a whole lot quicker. So let's pull this pan, clean off that drain plug, clean off the surface it's going to go to, and get it back in. And it does look like it has a little seal on there. It doesn't appear to be anything really wrong with the drain plug. We're just going to be careful to snug it down and not over tighten it, so we don't have to put the force of Montezuma behind it next time we have to take it out. Whoops, still got a couple little drips going on, but that's to be expected. I clean off that surface a little bit. I'll go find our drain plug. And just hand tighten it. And then we'll come back in with our socket and just snug it down. Okay, now we're tight. We're tight, okay? Just snug. So I'm gonna just give it a couple gentle pushes. Nothing too crazy here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm not putting my full body weight in there. Right, so now it's time to replace the oil. Got this guy right here. Like this funnel. Picked this up driving back from Houston. Another vehicle that had an overfilled transmission. And probably not the best thing for filling up with oil, because it's a long neck, which used for transmission, brake fluid, and all that good stuff. But it's cleaned up real good, so I'm not worried about anything. So it's going to slowly add our 5 quarts of 0 weight 20. Then we'll check the level, and we'll be good to go. Not much, so. One of the few things I like about this is that they've made the filter more accessible, and I really like the blind spot detection. It's got this absolutely ridiculous auto start stop feature that I hate, and the main battery is a pain in the butt to change out. Come back in here and kind of clean things up a bit. couple little dribbles. My hands. Down here. The funnel. The funnel. And just a tiny little dribble right there, which is okay. It's not hurting anything. And I got it cleaned up. And down this little crevice here. All good. And while we're at it, clean up the oil filler cap. Place that. There we go. Always good. Just kind of, whenever you're in here, just kind of wipe things down, make it purty. All right, now let's check our oil level here with our dipstick. Now I just went in. I might not get the most accurate reading right now because it hasn't coursed through anything, but I'll wipe that thing off. And our level, you see that or not, is right above the top full mark, which is exactly where we want it to be. Because when it courses through the engine, it should just go where it needs to be, and we're all good. Okay, now the last thing to do is to reset the oil life percentage in the dashboard. But first, I want to start it up and let the oil kind of course through things a bit and see how it sounds. And also check it for leaks and things like that. So far, nice and smooth. That's another thing about doing it while it's cold. You do it while it's cold, it retains a lot of oil up in the system instead of, it keeps more of it on the lubricated parts. All right, so we're gonna come over here. Right now I've got it set for speedometer on the readout, and we're gonna push the down button, see if I can get it all in there, down. I've got it on the tire pressure right now, and then we'll go left or right, whichever, just scroll through the menu that way until we get to our oil life. There's voltage. There's our oil life. Hold OK to reset it. So we're going to hold OK until it resets. Engine must be off with ignition in run. Okay, learned something new. So let's go ahead and turn the engine off. And to put it in run, you just do not depress the brake pedal, and you press, there's accessory and there's run. We do not have our foot on the brake pedal, so we're not starting it up. So we're going to go down, there's our oil life. We're going to, wait, let it do that stupid stuff here. There we go. Now we're going to press and hold the OK button to reset. 100%. There we go. Now let's depress the brake pedal. Start it back up. Let it run for a hot minute here. We get it back to where I like it to be. I like to know what my tire pressure is, and it won't tell you that until you drive a block or so. Put it back on the speedometer. Go look under the vehicle. Check for leaks. Also, I want to check around the oil filter for leaks. The idle's a little elevated right now. It's because it's kind of a cold day. Oh yeah, I hate the triple honk too. So let's go look underneath. Make sure we're not noticing any leaks. And I'm seeing no leaks. That's a leaf, not a leak. And I'm not noticing any leaks coming from the plug. All right, I'm satisfied that the oil plug is not leaking. Have a look at the feel around the filter real quick. I should not have closed the hood. Feel around the filter. Dry as a bone. We are good. That's another problem I have with these splash guards and covers and beauty filters. When you finish the job, if you put all these covers back on, you can't tell if it's leaking or not. And it catches any spots that might go in your garage or driveway. And well, I want to see those spots because that tells me if there's a problem. It's important to see those spots. It's important to know what's going on. And unfortunately, these car makers these days make these in such a way to where you can't stay on top of what is going on with your vehicle, or they make it very, very difficult. Anyway, that right there is how to do an oil change on a 2022 Chrysler Pacifica. Stay dandy.